Hello, my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then welcome to my channel, and in today's video, I am going to be giving some winter book recommendations. As for what I look for in a winter read, there are a few things. There's like snow and just general winter themes. I also like places that just kind of feel barren and cold and just dark atmospheres all around. And then also just fantasy and a combination of everything that I just said. So with that, I have 7 books to talk about today. Their content warnings will be linked down below in the description, and let's go ahead and get into it. So first up is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. This follows our main character who is the chosen one, but things aren't really going so well. His roommate at school is his nemesis, however, as their last year at school begins, he doesn't show up. So this spot on this list is more so just for this first book, mostly because I do have conflicting feelings about the second book, and despite me thinking about it a lot, I just have not gotten to that third book yet. It is hovering around my winter TBR, so we'll see. The first time that I ever read this book, which was a long time ago, it was in the winter, or at least I remember it being in the winter. It's also the only book that I have ever reread. For now, at least. I always have plans. I also do believe that this does have some holiday scenes, and it's just been like a huge comfort read for me. It's fun, it's adorable, it's heartwarming, and I always think about it during the winter, and it just makes me smile. So next up is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. So the blurb on the front of this book says, lesbian necromancers explore a haunted gothic palace in space. Decadent nobles vie to serve the deathless emperor skeletons. I almost have it memorized. One of these days it's going to happen. And I do find that blurb to be a very accurate description of what you get when you read this book. This is one that kind of splits its time between my fall and winter book recommendations, mostly because it took me a long time to read, so it spent a lot of time on my TBR. It reminds me of fall because it's dark and spooky and gothic, but it also reminds me of winter because of those same reasons. And then I also do have the sequel in my winter TBR pile right now. I really love the characters and the atmosphere. It has a mystery to it that I also enjoyed. So I am excited to get back into this series because there is so much that I liked about it, even if I did have some trouble getting into it. And I do think the story is going in some really interesting directions, and I'm so curious to see where it's going. So next up is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Legendborn follows our main character Bree after the death of her mother. She was accepted into a residential program at UNC, and this seems like a good escape from everything that is going on in her life up until she witnesses an attack by a magical creature on her first night on campus. This attack introduces her to a secret society of Legendborn, who are individuals who hunt down these creatures, and it also introduces her to a powerful mage who calls himself Merlin. This mage attempts to wipe Bree's memory of what she saw that night. However, his failure to successfully do so unlocks Bree's own magic and also a hidden memory of the night her mother died. Bree then has to decide how far she is willing to go for the truth. So I am going to kind of use this video as an excuse to talk about Bloodmarked, which is the sequel, and my current read. I am in a bit of a slump right now, and this seems to be the only book that is breaking through, which I am very grateful for. This also seems to be one of the best fantasy series that I have ever read in terms of quality. Both Legendborn and also Bloodmarked give me this feeling that reminds me of the feeling that I had when I first started reading, which again, gratitude. It has so many interesting and lovable characters and dynamics. It also has a pretty complex setting, which I like because there's a lot of layers to it. I am currently on page 177 of Bloodmarked. It's well on its way to 5 stars. And I want to finish it soon, but I'm also a little bit sad about that because I don't want to be without new content from this series. But also I want to keep reading it because I'm loving it, but that's also just going to make the separation harder. So next up is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This follows our main character who has grown up alongside the magical grimoires that are used for sorcery. When the most dangerous one in the library gets released due to sabotage, she is the one that gets blamed for it. With nowhere else to turn, she forms an alliance with a sorcerer who is also her sworn enemy and gets wrapped up in a centuries-old conspiracy. This is probably my coziest reading experience that is on this list, and it's also another one that just kind of bounces between my fall and winter book recommendations. Because it does remind me of both, but I do think the winter side of it is a little bit stronger since it does cause that warm and cozy feeling that I always crave in the winter. I also really loved the romance and the overall atmosphere. I thought that those were beautiful, and I also really loved how this incorporated books. And this definitely may need a reread this year because it does have that sequel novella coming out soon. And it's been a couple of years since I read this, but I am very excited to be interacting with and thinking about this series again. Next up is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. This takes place at the edge of the Russian wilderness where winter lasts most of the year, and they honor the spirits who protect their homes from evil. However, when our main character's father finds a new wife, she forbids them from doing so, which exposes the village to a great misfortune. In order to protect her family, our main character must use the dangerous gifts that she has kept hidden. This is another one that probably needs a reread. I've been telling myself to haul the sequels for actual years. It just has not happened yet, but I would be happy to give this one another try, especially in the winter. Like, you can see the cover, there are icicles on that cabin. And I also really loved how this story incorporated fairy tales overall. I thought that was really interesting, and also something that I would probably love to read more of. I do think that I was expecting this book to be something that it wasn't in terms of the romance. And it's taken me a little while, but I have grown to look back on this more fondly with what it did do. It already had so much that I did really enjoy, even if I was a little bit disappointed, so I definitely need to haul those sequels because I really want to get back into this. So next up is The City of Braz by S.A. Chakraborty. This is technically for the whole trilogy, but those books are very large, so I'm just going to hold up this one. The City of Braz follows our main character who accidentally summons a djinn during a con and is forced to come to terms with the fact that magic is actually real, even if she didn't believe in it beforehand. This is another one that has spent a lot of time on my TBRs. It's actually pretty constant, not only because of the length of this one, but also because of the length of all of its sequels. I've been thinking about this series a lot lately because I love getting completely lost in fantasy during the winter, and this is definitely a series that allows me to do so. It actually may be one of the strongest series that I've read when it comes to that. And there's no maybe, it definitely is. I am so attached and immersed in everything about this series, from the characters to the dynamics to the politics and the world and the tensions and the magic and just all of it. I have not finished the third book yet. This is a series that I love to take my time with. I love how long it is, and I like knowing that it's there whenever I want and need it. And it's calling out to me pretty hard right now, so we'll see what happens, since this is a series that also always breaks me out of my reading slumps even when nothing else can. Which again, very grateful for, and also probably needed right now, especially once I finish Bloodmarked. And the final recommendation that I have for this video is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsah Faizal. I'm so proud of myself that I called that. This follows one of our main characters who disguises herself as a boy so that she can venture into the cursed forest so that she can feed her people. This also follows our other main character who is an assassin known as the Prince of Death, as his father is the Sultan. Both of them have become legends in their kingdom, even if they don't really want that. When the land begins to get engulfed with a shadow, they go on separate missions to retrieve an artifact that can restore magic to the land. However, he has also been tasked to kill her as a greater threat unfolds along their journeys. This is yet another one that does have kind of that dark and cold atmosphere, which was one of, if not my favorite thing about this book. I have not read the sequel to this yet because the size of it does intimidate me some, and this is yet another one that probably could use a reread or a recap or something for me. I also do remember struggling a little bit with the characters and the romance here, but I also do remember this having some really interesting scenes and concepts. And I also remember thinking that it was going in some really interesting directions when it comes to the sequel. But once again, this book always stands out to me when winter comes around. Like, when I envision myself reading on like a cold winter night or day or whenever, it's usually this book that I'm reading in that vision. And I think that's because that everything that I liked about this book really captures what I really like about reading in the winter. So even if I do have some conflicting memories here, I am still very grateful for the good ones. Okay, so that is all I have for today's video. I'm pretty sure this is going up around the time of some holidays, so happy holidays if you are celebrating. And if you're not celebrating anything, I hope you are having a nice time as well. So with that, thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that. And hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye!